I made a video a few weeks ago saying that Create a Club was one of the most underused and underrated parts of career mode, and ever since then, I've been playing my own saves using Create a Club. I really think it is possibly the best part of career mode, the ability to have total freedom in setting up your future save, while also using teams that don't exist in the game by default is just a really good combination. Today I'm sharing 4 of my favourite real teams that I've collected over the past couple of years so that you can get started on FC24. I've decided to include teams of all abilities in this video from half a star to 4.5 stars, but if you're not interested in the idea that I'm talking about, you can skip ahead using the chapters that I've put on the video's time bar below the video. As someone who's lived in Wales for about a year now, I feel like I had to include this first team. Just over the border with England is a small town called Oswestry. In this town, you can find the 17 times Welsh champions and current holders of this amazing Cymru Premier League title, the New Saints FC. Of course, there is a bit of a precedent for Welsh teams playing in England. On FIFA in the Championship, we have Swansea and Cardiff from South Wales, while down in League 2, we currently have Wrexham and Newport from North Wales. That's why I know from creating this club myself that this can be a really fun save where you try and become the best team in Wales, and it's one that I totally recommend. Your rival could be either of the northern teams, because both Wrexham and Newport County are playing in the same league as where you'll start. Alternatively, you could choose Shrewsbury, who are actually the closest team inside England. TNS is not a well-liked team here in Wales. As the most professional team in the league, where most teams are actually semi-professional, there's this view that they only really have success because they have the most money and also spend the most money. That's a massive part of why I think they make a really interesting Create a Club save. Rather than buying their way to an 18th title in Wales, I really like the idea of them using their money to set up an academy and becoming the Welsh version of Athletic Bilbao while playing in England. For Bilbao, they can only sign players who came through academies in their region or grew up nearby to the club, and this is really easy to do in Wales because there's only 4 clubs you need to check, and of course, the Welsh are a separate nationality inside the transfer market. Their stadium is the tiny Park Hall Stadium, which is on the English side of the border, but is also home to Champions League football every single year. Every single year that TNS have been champions has resulted in qualification for Europe, with them nearly actually making the first ever Conference League group stage a couple of years ago until they lost to Victoria Pilsen on penalties. This actually gives us quite a good estimate of their overall ratings, because Pilsen are a 72 rated team on FIFA 21 when the game went to penalties. It's not unrealistic to say that means TNS are probably about a 61 overall rated team that got lucky in those 2 matches, but with an academy to fill, their first season in League 2 could be one that you remember forever. In a similar starting point, both Maine Road FC and also FC United of Manchester are 2 teams that you should really consider creating. You might remember FC United for being a protest club of the Glazers, but Maine Road FC was actually formed by supporters of Manchester City back in 1955. As the hipster options if you're interested in playing in Manchester, they both have their own strengths, weaknesses and interesting histories to base your Create a Club save on. I'll start by talking about Maine Road, and I think they could be a really interesting save if you make a couple of restrictions. One idea could be to only sign former Manchester City players or players on loan from that club. It might sound easy to win League 2 with these ideas, but I'm not talking about you going out to sign Balotelli or Ferran Torres, I'm talking more about Ched Evans and Scott Sinclair. I think copying Man City's tactics and playing style with players that are clearly not Premier League worthy could also result in a super interesting save. Could Luke Bolton be your new Kyle Walker? Does Jack Rodwell have what it takes to become the League 2 version of Rodri? Well, if you give this save a go with Maine Road FC, you'll be able to tell me in the comments below. There's not another team in the league that plays with both high pressing and slow possession build-up, so you'll be totally unique when it comes to tactics, and your team will also mostly have real faces if you do follow these restrictions. Once you get promoted, you could then move from the current 200-seat Brantingham Road Stadium back to the 35,000-seat stadium that Manchester City used to use on Maine Road in Manchester. It's a real throwback stadium to when football was in a different era, but I think it would be a really nice full loop because once you've achieved success, you can go back to where the club started. Meanwhile, across the city at the more famous FC United of Manchester, the fan-owned club actually hit a bit of a plateau recently after being promoted from Division 9 to Division 6 in under a decade. Compared to how close Maine Road is to Manchester City, FC United are both fans of Manchester United but haters of Manchester United. I'm not too sure if Jim Ratcliffe's ownership will thaw their relationship with the club, but this animosity actually lets you go one of two ways. Either you could become a feeder club to Manchester United, developing their players in the lower leagues and signing players from them, or you could do the total opposite and start a road to glory with the goal of becoming their biggest rivals, while also wanting to overtake Manchester City. Either of these directions sounds like they could become mega fun careers, so I'll leave that part up to you. Clearly, the majority of creator clubs in England are going to use League 2, either because you're creating a team that's below that level and rising up, or because it's fun just to rise from the bottom anyway. But how about a save where you start with a fairly decent team and also in the championship with a lot of players you probably know? I've mentioned this idea last year, but it was also one of my favourite saves from FIFA 23. You start in the championship at a club either called Young Lions FC or England Under-21s, whichever you prefer, and the save is all about winning both the championship and then eventually the Premier League with a squad that's entirely composed of 20-year-old or younger players from England. This isn't just about buying the best talent on the game, but it's actually about developing young players for the national team and somehow building a cohesive unit within strict age and nationality constraints. You might think that this is something that would never actually happen in real life. Why would an under-21s team play in a second division? Well, Australia's Institute for Sport ran their youth team in a feeder league to the National Soccer League back in the 90s, and Thailand, Indonesia and India all currently do the same thing as of 2024. Of course, players like Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka are going to be out of reach, especially in the Championship, but it's easy enough to buy players like Lewis Miley and Charlie Patino, who are still young enough to play for your club, but can still hold their own in the Championship. If you want to make things a little bit easier, you can actually just move the players you want to use to free agents before you start your career. I'd suggest always having a squad that has at least 5 players at each age, so 5 16-year-olds, 5 17-year-olds and 5 18-year-olds at your squad, else you'll be releasing the majority of your first team once they turn 22. This might actually sound like a fairly easy career mode save to do, but the constant churn of players does make it surprisingly hard to actually create a tactic that works. I did this exact save back on FIFA 23, and that's why I mentioned Charlie Patino. He played against Rico Lewis for the first 3 years of my save, and it actually turned out to be one of the most fun and unique combinations I've ever used in any career mode save. It was one of my favourite saves of that game, even if it was a little bit unrealistic, but the idea of creating a team that purely develops players for the national team is something that's both been done and something that is guaranteed to be fun inside career mode. I think every single one of these saves has potential to be very fun and one that you'll remember for a long time. If you want to watch my other video I made about Creator Club and how you can still make it a lot more fun, then check out the video that I've put on screen right now. But if you don't want to watch that, check out one of the other playlists I've got, or if not, thank you for watching, really do appreciate it. I'll see you soon, cheers and goodbye.